Bridge here, and welcome to my art tutorial series. Feel like I'm going to be doing this a lot because I decided to try to do something different with my hair because I need to wash it, and this was just not it. This is just not it. So, luckily, because this is an art tutorial, you will not be seeing my face that often, so that's great. We can ignore this for now. Also, I just got, bit up by mosquitoes, and I got this going on, so welcome to my tutorial. This is just the intro. This one is going to be covering front faces, just like looking straight at you. We're going to keep this kind of simple because you're not here to hear me talk randomly about my hair or my face. You are here for instructions. So I hope these are useful. These are things that I do to help myself draw. And yeah, we're here for the fun of it. Don't worry too much, and let's just go into it. I draw really scrappily at first, but you don't have to. Straight on view is what we're going to do first, and then I'm going to do some tips and tricks for side views. Straight on views usually are the hardest to do because you have to make them even on both sides. Okay, so that's usually how I start out my front views. Now, it's easier to make an oval than a circle, just because you don't really leave a lot of room for the chin. And I only use these little T's. I just use the T's. I know some people will use like an extra line here and here for eyes and all sorts of other things. I don't normally do that. You may do that if that's what your setup is more comfortable like. But I just try to keep it as simple as possible with just the T. Now, I know that looks fairly centered, but when you actually draw in where the chin will be, it's not. So make sure this line here, the center line, is not actually in the center. Because if you put it directly in the center, your eyeballs are going to be in the center of your head with like your little nose and mouth. And then you're going to have like this huge expanse of forehead up here that, I mean, if that's your style, go right ahead. But if you're only learning and that's not a stylistic choice, this is going to be super annoying. So like I said, for this line, it's more of a, again, these are more like guidelines than actual rules. Yes, I'm quoting Parts of the Caribbean. So for me, I'm just going to do kind of cartoony eyes because it's the quickest for me. And I try to keep the center of the eye kind of like right where that line is. You don't have to. If you're off by a little bit, don't stress. That's literally the problem kind of with art. People tend to stress it too much to be perfect. It does not have to be perfect, especially learning. So for just kind of like an eyeball base, that's what I kind of do. As you can see, they're not even. Don't stress it. Don't worry about it. For eyeball, for how far apart you should put them, the thing I learned is that this, like how big you put your eyeball from here to here, these 2 points, should be about the same in the middle between the eyes. If that makes sense. So this right here should be about the same width of here, and then this eyeball should be about the same width in all this. I kind of use my fingers to kind of do it, or most of the time I just guesstimate. But yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect, obviously. If it's not perfect, don't stress it, as I said. Eyeballs literally can just, I mean, the actual pupils can go literally anywhere. I'll just place mine there and there. You can do whatever. The only thing that I kind of avoid doing myself is, here, we'll use this little guy over here. We'll draw some eyeballs. Okay. So the only thing I try not to do is put them directly in the center, because then you get this weird headlights effect. For me personally, I try to make the top of the iris touch something. So either like this top line, a side line over here or down here, something like that. If you do put it in the center, you kind of have to place it just right. If I do kind of want them to look forward, I do kind of place them just slightly down away from it so that I can put some shading up above it so it doesn't look like they're staring directly into your soul. But for right now, I'm just going to kind of up it up here. I'm just going to put little like folds up for where the eyelid should be. Again, not really a huge thing you have to do. I just do it stylistically. And then eyebrows, just my only tip is try not to put eyebrows like way up here on the forehead. They don't need to be that far up. Stylistically, if that's what you want to do, go ahead. But again, if you're a beginner, you're probably not trying to do style too much. You're just trying to get basics. So I usually just kind of put them about that far up. There's no real, I think there is actual real guidelines for eyebrows. I don't follow them because I just don't. If it helps at all, if you're putting ears on your person, ears should be at the, like, kind of like this. So the top of your eye should be where the ear is, and I kind of just put the eyebrow maybe, like, just maybe, what? Not halfway. What would I call that? Like half a centimeter above all that, if that makes sense. I don't know if that works, but it makes sense to you, it makes sense. So I'll put an ear on the other side. Might not keep them. I'm making them kind of dopey so people can see them. But yeah, see, try to keep the ears about level with your eyeballs. Eyebrows, I never make them match. I mean, look at my stuff. They never match. But try to keep them, you know, the same distance apart of the eyes. They kind of start at the beginning of the eye. It may end a little farther than your eyeball. Again, eyebrows, subjective. And if you get them wrong, well, you can just cover them with hair in the end anyway. So you're fine. Line, mine are never fully even. I fix it all when I'm done sketching. Because this is all for sketch. I'll clean it up in a bit and try to fix it and stuff like that. But again, when you're sketching, just don't worry about how it's really looking. You can fix things as you go. So here, I usually just do a little, like, guesstimate where the top of my nose is. Bottoms, I'm actually really sucky at noses. I usually just do this little, like, open U. And I try to make sure that, here, let me finish the nose before I move on. LOL, ha. Okay, so I just do a few little U's for noses. Sometimes I'll make this a little rounder, give it a little, like, that effect if I want to, you know, kind of play with it. Play with shapes. That's all art is play with shapes. Put a little U's on the side, and I try to make sure the nostrils are about even with, like, where the tear duct should be on your drawing. You can make noses wider, you can make them narrower. Noses are pretty, like, you know, varied. No one's really, I don't think anyone's really going to say much if it's slightly off, because you're like, oh, that's just how they look in real life. Everybody's noses are weird. Okay, so I'm doing a little bit of a mouth here. Again, spacing, that would probably be your biggest issue. You're just going to have to, over time, learn and kind of figure out what looks good for you. For me, I kind of do the same thing with the eyebrows. I kind of just play with it. This is, what I'm drawing right now is actually the center of the mouth. I find that a lot easier to do than doing the top first, then this, and then no. For me, that's just how it is. Yeah. Just feels a little more easier for me to do is the center, do a top lip of some kind, and then a bottom. Kind of like that. And I keep my lips very, very, very subjective. So I don't really connect these lines. Here, I'll do it over here. Let's go up here, right here, to my example, dude. Woo, that's too foggy. Okay. So I don't tend to connect the bottom lip and the top lip. To me, it kind of looks like a duckbill sometimes. I'm not good at making it look good. I know that there's some people who do. I don't necessarily do that. I don't connect them. I just do that, and then I kind of put a little divot, like right where that center, so have the center line go through it. That's where your little, I don't know what that thing's called right here, but you know what I mean. Kind of give it a little bit of an arch, and there you go, mouth. Not the best mouth? No. No, it's not. But you know what? This is a sketch. And there you go. You got a face. Granted, this is not a good face really right now, but you can fix it up quite a bit as we go on. So I'm going to change my color a little bit. Okay, so side of the head. I'm going to ignore these. Ignore the ears, because right now. We'll put them back on later. So it's usually the shape of the head I see a lot of people have issues with. And I don't blame them. I had a lot of issues myself. Okay, so here's the end of the eyebrow right here, kind of. You don't want to start your head right here, okay? Like, I know we have a basic, like, outline of a head right here. We're going to use that as a kind of a guideline, but again, not an actual rule. And I understand this is not all centered. Ignore this part here as well. So we're mainly going to try to line things up with this bottom piece here. And if yours is not, if you're following along and yours isn't uneven, then you can kind of just sit and watch if you need. If you got it perfect on the first try, good for you. So I kind of do a little bit of guesswork here, but I try to make sure that both sides of the head are pretty even. So this red line here. So maybe about 1/2 centimeter. Again, most of it was just eyeballing and you deciding if it looks good or not. Kind of make it come down. Now, where the jawline should be, I usually put it a little bit diagonal from where the corner of your mouth that you drawn is. Kind of round it. Here, hold on. Let me actually get it drawn first. There. So okay, this kind of, I shouldn't have chose red for this. But yeah, so it's slightly where the peak of where your jaw comes out, like the biggest part of that usually kind of curves around. So since it's a round, like this is a round surface, not actually flat in real life, it kind of goes around this line. And kind of like your top line up here. You don't want to make, okay, I forgot to say this, but you don't want to make any of these lines necessarily fully straight. Don't do that. Remember, you're drawing a round surface, so everything has to be round that you're putting on it. Okay, sorry. Moving on. It's a little hard to line up the jaw completely, and again, no one's jaws are absolutely perfect. If you mess up, you mess up. Okay, so I did not put a lot of room for the chin here. Just kind of connected that line, called it good. Does it look good? Not quite yet. So what I usually do is kind of re-erase and try to play with the jawline until I find a reasonable jaw, like a jaw that I like, where I have enough chin. I kind of experiment with like how I want the chin to look. They don't always look the same on the same side. Just keep kind of erasing and decide what I think looks good. This is where I'll add in that it's all about you, essentially, when you're drawing. Don't really worry about other people and what other people are going to think, and if it's if it's good or not. If it's, just draw. Just do it for you. Worry about, all this other stuff later. And since I'm doing this digitally, I can, move things. So if that's not quite center, I can just kind of move that there. If you're doing this on paper and pencil, it's a little more annoying. But we all know how that works. As you can see, my face is a little janky. It's a little sideways. Those are the original, T marks, and then this is kind of a mark for the lips. If you want to, as I said, some people do this to even out the eyeballs. But as you can see, my face is kind of, looking off to the side here. I don't really mind that. You can keep redrawing it so that you're not kind of on a tilt, because, the neck would be right down there, so this person's kind of, tilted their head to the side. I don't mind. And we'll clean this up in the very end. I'm hoping this is making a little bit of sense. So, as we see, we can see our original line work here. We have that original center line. I'm going to do hair in a different color. Let's just do green and make it Christmassy. Blue, too patriotic. Let's do purple. Okay. I'm going to finally address that this eye right here is a little too low. You might notice it with your own artwork that your eyeballs don't really line up correctly. If you have a problem with it, just erase it and pretty much just recenter it. Don't stress yourself out. Eyeballs aren't exactly, they're more like twins. No, excuse me. Eyeballs are more like sisters than twins, kind of like eyebrows. Honestly, if you guys watch my main channel, you will notice that my own eyeballs do not match. I have a lazy eyelid. So, yeah, no. Don't worry if your art is a little off. So, hair. More like foreheads, because foreheads are really hard. I still sometimes make them too big or too small. It happens. Okay, so this top part of the forehead, actually, that's not even part of the forehead. That's the actual head. That part right there, that part doesn't matter really so much because you're going to cover it with hair. Unless your character is bald, then that's a little different. It's a little different. I don't really know really good spacing for, this whole top head part. I just mostly, again, guesstimate what looks right. And it also depends on the hairstyle you want to do and all and stuff like that. My thing is my whole thing with the forehead thing is, again, if it looks right, I'm going to exclude the chin in here. So we're going to show another little guideline thing that kind of helps. Exclude this chin here, right here. But the forehead, I feel should be about as long as from here to, where your jaw rounds out. If that helps at all. But again, more of a guideline than an actual rule. But yeah, if that helps, it helps. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I apologize for that. But yeah, so from here to like your eyebrow up to like the bottom of your eye, those should be about the same. If they're not, don't worry about it. Wow, this person is like, this drawing is looking a little whack right now. If I'll switch colors for actual hair right now. So like parting, I might make a whole hair tutorial on different hairstyles and stuff like that, but this is just really like a quick subjective thing. For like bangs and stuff like that, you should always figure out what direction you want things to go in first, because we'll use this guy over here as an example. As usual, like, if you don't, like, I have that, kind of make these the same, but I kind of have this. So if I do bangs like this on one side, but then I do this on the other, and then kind of like this back over here and this looks very chaotic, and it's hard for the viewer to focus on, as opposed to doing them one direction. Like, you can make, like, a tiny flip out every now and then, stuff like that, but try to make most of your hair in a section go the same direction. So for this one, it's just going that way. And you can kind of play with the ends, but make sure you just have an actual flow to how you're doing your hair. And there you go. There's some quick bangs. But there. I'll do a tutorial on how to make like flowy, cutesy hair in the future, but right now that's not the main focus. We're just doing a kind of quick hair thing on this just to kind of make it look more like a face. Again, it all depends on how you want to do hair. I'm just gonna throw this on as just, you can make it go in front of your ears, behind, whatever. I usually use hair to cover up ears because I don't like them. And this is a kind of a tip for hair, for faces in general. And people might not agree with me on it, but if there's a part of your drawing that you do not like, you can cover it with hair. You can change the hairstyle and just cover it completely. So if you decide you don't like this eye, you can just completely cover it up for right now and make a small emo child. Like, that's not there anymore. This whole side of the face, you screwed up on it. Cover it. Just cover it for right now. If it's stressing you out so much and you're absolutely like at wit's end, just cover it. Move on with your drawing. You're not going to, like, I guess this is a major tip, I guess, right now. Major tip, write it down if you have to. You're not going to learn very well if you're constantly stressing about making parts of your drawing absolutely perfect. If there is something that is causing a lot of problems for you while you're drawing, just leave it alone. You're not going to learn while stressed and frustrated and angry. And this is what I've learned after, like, a long time of art. I didn't start progressing until I calmed down and relaxed and just allowed myself to just draw and do whatever. Just allowed my body to just learn at its own pace instead of trying to force it to do these things. So there we go. That's a huge tip. This is like my best advice. This thing is freaking me out back here, but yeah. So there's just that. We're gonna, and after that little piece of ice, we are gonna go down to this little, like a neck. Necks kind of just connect a little bit here. Let me scroll in. I'm sorry. I should have done the res a lot better on this. But necks should kind of come down from your jaw, but not like directly from the size of your jaw, because then you just have like a quarterback neck. If that's your thing, that's your thing. I usually cover necks a little bit, but we're going to go more into what lies below the neck in another video. Now, I'm going to skip forward and I'm going to clean this up a little bit, and we're going to talk about a little bit more after that, and I think we'll call it good. Yeah. So even my line version, you know, still needs some work. Needs a lot of detail, blah, 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 blah. That's all stuff that you can do as you're finishing, as you're refining, as you are playing around with it. And yeah, I think this is all I have for front view. I think I'm going to do other ones on side views because this is going a little long. But yeah, we'll do side views in the next video. And yeah, we're going to go over to my outro card. Okay, so I said outro card. I didn't really mean straight to the outro card. I meant to this, but you know what? I understand what I meant. So I'm hoping that was useful. Really am. As I said, I will be making another one on side views. I have already recorded that, so that should be coming out next Monday. We also have a body proportions one that I have already filmed, so that will be coming out relatively soon as well. If you have any other suggestions of little tutorials you want from me that is art-based, please leave them in the comments below. So everyone, have a nice day, stay as healthy as you can, and I will see you in the next one. Do all those, like, subscribe, sell your soul to whoever, your babysitter, your best friend, some deity I don't know about.